The Biden administration basically did what the Wall Street Journal editorial page had been lobbying for, and that is before Rupert Murdoch owned the Wall Street Journal, by the way. The Dow Jones Company owned the Wall Street Journal, so that is before Murdoch owned the Wall Street Journal. And so they're saying he wants to show who's boss. Yes, when it comes to immigration issues and foreign policy, he is boss. But what about due process? Well, what about it? Notice they bring it up again, but they don't explain how this is to be handled. Because if the federal judiciary is going to handle due process for 20 million illegal aliens, let's pretend it's 9 million, 11 million, 4 million. You will never have your day in court because it will be impossible for a federal court to hear any case but an immigration case, and will still be behind by millions. Let's take a listen to two of the dummies right now. The Morning Schmo and Mrs. Schmo on this case. I've got it right now. This case involving Maryland and Abrego Garcia, who's our new cause celeb. Go.
U.S. District Judge Paula Zenas, who's overseeing Kilmar Abrego Garcia's case, is now weighing contempt proceedings against the Trump administration for failing to act in returning Abrego Garcia back to the U.S. During a hearing yesterday, Zenas scolded Justice Department officials for doing nothing.
Here we have a judge scolding the President of the United States. Scolding the President of the United States over Abrego Garcia, the former, maybe even current MS-13 member. You go get him and bring him back here. And the Supreme Court agrees with me because he didn't have due process. What do you mean by due process? We're going to open the door to full due process to everyone? What the hell does that even mean? Go ahead.
To facilitate Abrego Garcia's release from El Salvador's notorious prison, telling them to cancel vacations and other appointments in order to comply with a 2-week inquiry into the matter. She added there will be no tolerance for gamesmanship or grandstanding. In an 8-page written order, Zenas said 4 senior officials from Homeland Security and the State Department must sit for depositions by next Wednesday to produce details under oath about their attempts to bring him back.
See, this is a judge who's out of control. You see how angry she is? Or he is? I said, you bring them back and we're going to depose you and we're going to get to the bottom of this. 2 weeks vacation, meaning these people can't celebrate Easter. That's right. You make sure you have enough clothes that are pressed and cleaned. Pretty much is what the judge said. 2 weeks, we're going to dig into you. So now the Department of Justice under Donald Trump, effectively under this judge, they're the defendants. In a case involving a guy who's an illegal alien, there's no dispute about that, and was involved in MS-13, there's no dispute about that. The best con job the media can do isn't going to change the facts. And now the Department of Justice is under examination. Because this judge is angry. Angry, you know. Due process. Go ahead.
Zenas also called out the Trump administration for its semantics over the word facilitate in its read of both her order and the Supreme Court's order. In a status report ahead of yesterday's hearing, a Trump administration attorney wrote that even if Abrego Garcia does make it back to the U.S., the administration will only deport him again.
He'll be deported again. He's here illegally. Yes, that's right. He'll be deported again. Go ahead.
For his part, President Trump continues to argue he won the decision 9-0, and that the matter is entirely in the hands of El Salvador.
It's not just this federal judge, this district judge that's looking at what the Trump administration is doing and what they did inside the White House and what they did with the president of El Salvador yesterday.
Now, don't you love this? They hate the Supreme Court unless they love the Supreme Court. It's incredible. If the Supreme Court had ruled the other way, you'd hear something else. This is an unsigned opinion, meaning it comes from the Chief Justice. They all agreed, okay, fine, uphold the lower court, facilitate the order. Then the lower court says, don't play semantical games with me. The word facilitate, and of course, what is the job of a judge? To look at words and interpret what the law is and the facts are. So it's not a semantics game, that's number one. Number two, the court didn't rule on behalf of the illegal immigrant. The court ruled that the illegal immigrant has a right to some kind of a review. but they wouldn't say what kind. And the administration is saying, first of all, we can't get the guy back, but even if we bring the guy back, we're going to deport him. We're going to remove him because he's here illegally. And in that, there's no dispute. Go ahead.
You've got 9 justices on the Supreme Court who are looking to, and as the Wall Street Journal editorial board writes about the case, they're not pleased. Mr. Abrego Garcia is being held under an agreement in which the administration is paying El Salvador $6 million to house migrants this year.
This is a separate, completely different, separate issue. Completely separate issue. Go ahead.
Since the Supreme Court has ordered efforts to facilitate the return, continuing to pay El Salvador for his detention would violate that order.
What we're noticing is the editorial page of the Wall Street Journal and National Review are so screwed up on this, it's not even funny. They are pretending that they support the rule of law, the Constitution. We're way away from that. The Constitution was violated by Biden. The rule of law was turned inside out by Biden. He issued an executive order. He did what he did. Trump is trying to reverse course. And now Trump, you have to follow the rules here. You have to follow what rules? I'm deporting him. You got to follow the rules. Follow what the judge says. The case of Biden, it was catch me if you can. Go ahead.
Writes the Wall Street Journal editorial page. The larger problem is that Mr. Abrego Garcia was deported without due process, writes Murdoch's Wall Street Journal editorial page. Mr. Trump would be wise to settle all of this by quietly asking Mr. Bukele to return Mr. Garcia, who has a family in the U.S., but the president may be bloody-minded enough that he wants to show the judiciary who's boss.
You see, this is so outrageous. They make it personal, emotional. That's the problem with having these ivory tower bimbos writing this stuff. Can a guy be a bimbo? Sure, why not? So anyway, he wants to show the judiciary who's boss. We have separation of powers. He's trying to defend separation of powers. He's literally trying to defend the office of the presidency and the Constitution. And this is what the Wall Street Journal does. And of course, the Wall Street Journal never mentions, as I always do, that it wasn't many decades ago that they were pushing a constitutional amendment that was 5 words long, thou shall have open borders. Did you know that? Did you know that? I repeat this all the time. So they're not even sympathetic to a secure border. They don't even mention that here. The Biden administration basically did what the Wall Street Journal editorial page had been lobbying for, and that is before Rupert Murdoch owned the Wall Street Journal, by the way. The Dow Jones Company owned the Wall Street Journal, so that is before Murdoch owned the Wall Street Journal. And so they're saying he wants to show who's boss. Yes, when it comes to immigration issues and foreign policy, he is boss. But what about due process? Well, what about it? Notice they bring it up again, but they don't explain how this is to be handled. Because if the federal judiciary is going to handle due process for 20 million illegal aliens, let's pretend it's 9 million, 11 million, 4 million. You will never have your day in court because it will be impossible for a federal court to hear any case but an immigration case, and will still be behind by millions. Got it? So this whole argument is very interesting to me, but as a practical matter, is a huge problem. Go ahead.
If this case does become a judicial showdown, Mr. Trump may assert his Article 2 powers not to return Mr. Abrego Garcia, and the Supreme Court would be reluctant to disagree. But Mr. Trump would be smarter to play the long game.
Why would anyone take advice from a Wall Street Journal editorial page that is incredibly hostile to this president and always has been? He's not going to take advice from them. Go ahead.
He has many, much bigger issues than the fate of one man.
No, it's not about the fate of one man. That is a ridiculous line. You have Rosa Parks, that was the fate of one woman. No, it was a bigger issue. We're talking about separation of powers. Who gets to make these decisions? Who gets to reverse what the prior administration did? We're talking about the president's powers. This is just the latest example, but there are multiple examples. This case is a case like this because of all these so-called progressive judges that they put on the bench. Go ahead.
That will come before the Supreme Court. By taunting the judiciary in this manner, he is inviting a rebuke on cases that carry far greater stakes.
Well, let me understand the Wall Street Journal. They're saying these justices are so stupid. They're so capable of being persuaded politically that if you take them on this case, that means you're going to really tick them off. So in future cases that may even have more at stake, you've ticked them off. Now they're going to keep ruling against you. If that's the case with these justices, they should all resign. It's one case at a time. It's not like being editorial board writers at the Wall Street Journal. You know, they write this stuff. They're in their big building in Manhattan, and they go down. Maybe they'll go to get a couple of Nathan's hot dogs. You know, I like the yellow mustard, not the brown mustard. And then they go back up and they finish writing their editorial. These aren't people that have, you know, experience in this area or serious substance in this area. They're just giving their opinion, shooting from the, just like these judges. Go ahead.
And again, this is, going back to Signalgate.
Signalgate. They're still on Signalgate? Give a whole Signalgate? We now know what happened. It was a complete administrative screw-up, and not, by the way, by Waltz. Signalgate? Some staffer has the phone number for this guy Goldberg, who's a radical leftist Democrat who runs the Atlantic. And he has his number, not really on purpose. It's just one of a bunch of numbers that are on the phone. Waltz has not called him before, even though he was accused of that by the people trying to stab him in the back. And so when they pull together this meeting, that number pops up, I guess, on their iPhone, and it's included in the meeting. That's Signalgate? Signalgate? Go ahead. These people are pathetic.
It could be an example of the administration fighting to win a battle and ending up losing a political war. Ken Delanian.
Wait a minute. Would this be the same Joe Scarborough who told us over and over again what a genius Joe Biden was? Why are these people still on TV? Oh, do tell us what you think, please, because you were so forthright with us. You said you spoke to Joe Biden every morning, and he was unbelievable, and he was bright, and you defended him right to the end. So did your sidekick, Mrs. Schmo. And we're supposed to listen to this guy about, this is how you need to handle this, Mr. President, you know. And then you had Signalgate. What about Bidengate? You know, Biden Cuckoo Gate. Go ahead.
I'm reminded back in 2017 when Donald Trump started attacking federal judges.
And who's this stiff right next to him? What? And notice, they pick people who agree with them. Folks, you'll say, Mark, you do the same. We try. We try to pick people who I can debate. I don't want the Lilliputians, you know. I don't want the pawns. I want the big guys. They won't come on, just so you know. Go ahead.
On Twitter at the time, talking to a relative of a federal judge who was in the Federalist Society, very conservative, saying, not a smart move, an attack on one federal...
Oh, wait a minute. What an authority. Talking to somebody who knows a judge, who's related to somebody who knows a judge, and they said this isn't a smart move? Wow. Perfect advice. You know, you would think by now Joe would learn not to go so far out on the limb and to make these stupid arguments, but he hasn't learned. Go ahead.
Is an attack on all federal judges, and you saw it time and time again over the next 3.5 years that even the most conservative justices had no patience for the White House thumbing their nose at any federal judges.
Okay, thank you. Goodbye. That's why you have no audience. We've had enough of you too, rambling like Joe Biden.
For all this and much more, sign up for Levin TV.